me see this. Yay, thank God, live chat works. Okay, that is what I wanted. So, welcome to my live stream. I'm going to be trying to subscribe to 1,000,000 channels today. So, I'm going to be trying to subscribe to 1,000,000 channels today. I just forgot. So, I'm on the letter D. The way I do this is I go type the letter in and I filter by channel. So, third time's the charm. Hello? 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 Maybe it's the... No, apparently still... I'm still... I can never get this thing to work. sound like I'm echoing? Yeah, I sound like I've got an echo for some reason. One, hello?
If you were stuck in a life or death situation and the only way to escape was to guess how old this man was, what would you say? Jared Leto is 50 years old. Let that sink in for a minute. Why is it that Twitter seemingly lost their mind after Jared Leto presented a Grammy to Olivia Rodrigo? A seemingly innocent interaction with dark roots that only some are aware of. Jared Leto began his acting career in 1992 in the television series Camp Wilder, but really hit the limelight 2 years later with his breakout role as Jordan Catalano in My So-Called Life. It was clear that he was a heartthrob and had acting talent, a combination that would allow him to star in Hollywood cult classics like Fight Club, American Psycho, and Requiem for a Dream. Jared Leto is known for being a method actor, aiming to show real and raw emotions in his roles by throwing himself into the world of the character that he plays. Sometimes he gets it right, other times he falls flat on his face. One of his earliest demonstrations of method was in Prefontaine, a 1997 biopic about the legendary distance runner. Jared Leto is most notably known for his Oscar-winning performance as Rayon, a struggling transgender woman in Dallas Buyers Club. Method acting, traditionally known as the Stanislavski system, was developed as a way for actors to combine the outer and inner theatrical sense of self by physically embodying the character's experiences.
Today's actors must look to Moscow at the beginning of the 20th century to find one of the great theatrical figures of his time, an actor, stage director, teacher, and founder of the legendary Moscow Art Theater. This is Konstantin Stanislavski. Before his death in 1938 and after, he was an enigma. Successive generations have either venerated him or discredited him. A constant source of controversy, he has been nominated with Einstein and Freud as one of the three true visionaries of the century. Others have denounced him as a charlatan purveyor of mumbo-jumbo. One thing is undeniable. Stanislavski, his theater and his acting system found immortality, even as the world around him was being torn apart.
Although method acting is a legitimate way that many actors get into character, it's oftentimes used as a selling point for modern movies. Usually, headlines are run showcasing the extremes that some of these actors go to in order to prepare for their roles. It's cringy and oftentimes embellished or fabricated to stir up hype. This is one of the main reasons why people hate Jared Leto's Joker, but we'll get into that later. If you're able to separate Jared Leto from his acting ability, it's no secret that he's successful on the big screen. Parallel to his rise to fame in Hollywood during the 90s, Jared Leto would start a band with his brother Shannon. They would name it 30 Seconds to Mars. If you grew up during this time like myself, you can probably remember The Kill playing on every alternative radio station in the 2000s. 30 Seconds to Mars would go on to have numerous breakout hits as their style shifted from edgy to pop. This is why many 30 Seconds to Mars fans are nostalgic of their original music but cringe at their new stuff. They continue to create music around vague, relatable themes such as struggle, love, life, death, and faith. Did 30 Seconds to Mars dominate any genre? Probably not, but they were insanely successful in creating a cult following that is now bigger than ever, known as the Echelon. The Echelon is what 30 Seconds to Mars fans collectively call themselves. Not only are they obsessed with the band's music, but also the themes and messages prevalent in all aspects of the community. Members of the Echelon refer to each other as part of a family. From an outside view, the Echelon is just like any other stan group, and the reality is, stan group
des problèmes. Vous voyez ce qui se passe, là, vous avez une télé, ça tire partout. Les jeunes, ils tirent partout, ils veulent prendre des terrains. Moi, je suis payé 10 000 € par mois. On m'a dit, s'il y a un problème, il faut que j'allume tout le monde. Et j'allume tout le monde s'il y a un problème.
Et 2 véhicules sont arrivés à ma hauteur, des armes automatiques à la main, et qu'ils ont commencé à tirer.
C'était quoi comme type d'arme?
Type Kalachnikov et Scorpio.
Scorpion. Hop, petit, efficace, rafaleux.
Dire, le premier employeur au final, hein, la première entreprise.
To celebrate the
Hey, 42 here. It's no coincidence that in the movies, the wiliest spies, bravest soldiers, and greatest military tacticians always end up fighting for the goodies. I mean, it wouldn't make for great cinema if the next James Bond film opened with 007 getting murdered in his sleep after being outwitted by Spectre's latest spying prodigy. But of course, in reality, war doesn't really work that way. And no matter who ultimately comes out on top, both sides will have their heroes. The subject of today's video did some pretty remarkable things during the Second World War. He saved one of Europe's most important people from incarceration by infiltrating enemy territory in a glider, saved 1 million fellow soldiers from becoming trapped behind enemy lines by kidnapping the son of a prominent European leader, and, after being captured at the end of the war, he escaped from prison by disguising himself in an enemy uniform. On the face of it, this man probably sounds like your textbook war hero material, and he very much was. If you happen to be a member of the Nazi Party. The person I'm going to talk about in this video was not a good man by any means. He was a Nazi through and through, and a personal favourite of Adolf Hitler. But his story is an interesting one all the same, full of espionage, intrigue, and the unlikeliest collaboration since Elton John and Queens of the Stone Age. Yeah, that happened. This is the story of Otto Skorzeny, Hitler's answer to James Bond, and a man so notorious the Allies came to refer to him as the most dangerous man in Europe. Otto was born in Vienna, Austria, in the summer of 1908. He was a bright lad, and after doing well in school, he went on to study engineering at university. He graduated in 1931, but an engineering degree wasn't the only thing he got out of his time at uni. He also earned himself a dramatic Bond villain-esque scar in a fencing match. And it wasn't fencing like you or I know it. This was academic fencing, an incredibly weird sort of sport once popular in university fraternities in Central Europe, where participants would stand at a fixed distance and basically try to stab each other in the face. Dodging is against the rules, as is flinching. So, unsurprisingly, brutal scars were common. At one time, they were even coveted. Consequently, many prominent Nazis had them, which is partly why so many villains in franchises like the Bond films have scars too. Anyway, after graduating, Skorzeny did two things. He got himself a job as a civil engineer, and he went to see a talk given by some German chap by the name of Joseph Goebbels. It was to be a turning point in Skorzeny's life, and he signed up to the Austrian Nazi Party that very night. At 6'4" and weighing in at 18 stone, Skorzeny was a bear of a man. Combined with his intelligence and natural charisma, he quickly became an important figure in the party. In 1939, he played an active role in the annexation of Austria by Germany. And he even claims to have saved the life of then President of Austria, Wilhelm Miklas, when Scorzini's fellow Nazis attempted an impromptu assassination. A year and a half later, the Second World War began in earnest, and Scorzini immediately signed up to fight for Hitler. His first choice was the Luftwaffe, the German Air Force, but he had a problem. The German aircraft in operation during the Second World War had little in the way of flying position adjustability. Apparently, Hitler didn't fancy splashing out for the premium Messerschmitt cockpit trim, and that meant Scorzini was simply too big to fly. He didn't let the disappointment hold him back for too long though, instead signing up to the combat branch of the SS, where he trained with Hitler's personal bodyguard regiment. By all accounts, Scorzini was hungry for action, and soon enough he began tapping up his connections in the Austrian Nazi Party to get himself transferred to the front lines. Once there, he quickly distinguished himself in the eyes of the Nazi leadership, earning himself an Iron Cross Second Class and a promotion to the rank of First Lieutenant. Now, before I move on to Scorzini's more dramatic accomplishment, it's worth mentioning that had history gone just slightly differently, Scorzini might have ended up being responsible for the deaths of a staggering 4 million people. During the Battle of Moscow, he was put in charge of a unit tasked with capturing several strategic targets in the city. That included things like the Central Telegraph Office and Soviet secret police headquarters, but also the sluice gates of the Moscow-Volga Canal. That last one may sound like a fairly random addition to the list, but the canal was crucial to Hitler's mind-bogglingly evil master plan for Moscow. You see, had the Nazis been successful in capturing the city, Hitler had asked Scorzini to open those sluice gates, flooding Moscow and turning it into an artificial lake, drowning the roughly 4 million people inside in the process. Towards the end of the battle for Moscow, Scorzini was hit in the back of the head by a stray piece of shrapnel. The wound wasn't life-threatening, but it was serious enough that he had to be evacuated from the front line for treatment. For a man of action like Scorzini, it was infuriating, but having a bit of distance from the chaos of war gave him the time and space to think. You see, he had a particular interest in commando warfare, behind enemy lines type stuff, and as he worked on his recovery, it became increasingly clear that he had a genuine flair for it. His ideas were so impressive that when he'd recovered from his wound, he was asked to lead a newly formed unit of elite commandos. For the remainder of the war, Scorzini led these men on a series of outrageous covert missions, the most famous of which was Operation Oak, also known as the Gran Sasso Raid. The aim of the mission was simple: to find and free Benito Mussolini, who had just been arrested after the Allied invasion of Sicily, which precipitated the fall of the fascist regime in Italy. The operation had been initiated by order of the force of habit. The operation had been initiated by order of the Führer himself, and he'd handpicked Scorzini for this most important of jobs. Not only was Mussolini an important ally, Hitler knew that without him, Italy was essentially lost. Of course, the Italian leadership knew just how valuable an asset Mussolini was, and so they kept moving him around from one top-secret location to another under heavy guard, which meant Scorzini's first task was to figure out exactly where the man known as Il Duce was being held. He solved this problem in the simplest way possible. He found somebody who knew Mussolini's whereabouts and offered him a shitload of cash. Incidentally, the money he used for this bribe was made up of £100,000 of counterfeit British currency, forged as part of Operation Bernhard, an ambitious plan by the Nazis to crash the entire British economy by essentially bombing Britain with money. But that's a story for another video. Scorzini's plan was eventually successful, but there were quite a few hiccups along the way, not least of which involved him being shot down whilst flying a reconnaissance mission over Italy. He survived a crash landing at sea with 3 broken ribs for his troubles. Eventually, Mussolini was tracked down to a remote hotel high up in the Apennines, reachable only by a funicular railway, and that presented a fresh problem. Storming the hotel via the funicular wasn't going to be an option. It was too heavily guarded, and hiking into the mountains would almost certainly be too slow. considering how often Mussolini was being moved. Flying in was the obvious choice, but Scorzini's sore ribs were a painful reminder of just how risky that was. And so, he came up with a brilliant alternative. Since sound was such an important element in the detection of aircraft by gunners on the ground, Scorzini and his men opted to use aeroplanes that didn't produce any. Gliders. 10 of them flew the mission, soaring up into the skies high above the Apennines, on thermals, before bearing down on the hotel holding Mussolini on silent wings. The element of surprise proved so powerful that the 200 Italian soldiers guarding Mussolini surrendered to Scorzini and his men without a single shot being fired, despite the fact the German force was the smaller of the two. Admittedly, it probably helped that plenty of the Italians remained loyal to their erstwhile leader. Plenty of them can be seen smiling for the cameras in the photos taken that day. But Scorzini didn't care. He pulled off an important and dramatic win for the Nazi leadership. 2 days later, Mussolini was fist-bumping his old pal Hitler at the Führer's famous bunker headquarters, the Wolf's Lair, while Scorzini was enjoying widespread acclaim, a promotion to Major, and another shiny new medal, the Knight's Cross. The mission drew so much praise that even Winston Churchill expressed his admiration for what was undeniably an incredibly daring raid. It was also around this time that Scorzini earned his now famous nickname, the most dangerous man in Europe. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that, in hindsight, that moniker might have just been a smidge over the top. I'm not trying to say that Scorzini wasn't a dangerous guy, he clearly was, but he worked for Adolf Bloody Hitler, quite possibly the most dangerous hairless ape Homo sapiens have ever been unfortunate enough to produce. To be fair, I should point out that some historians believe it was probably Joseph Goebbels who came up with the whole most dangerous man in Europe thing, in an attempt to cash in on the propaganda opportunity provided by the raid. Wherever it came from, the Allies certainly seem to have taken the nickname seriously. Later in the war, when rumours began to spread that Scorzini had been ordered to find and kill Dwight D. Eisenhower just before Christmas in 1944, the supreme commander of the Allied Expeditionary Force was forced to spend the festive period under armed guard for fear that the big German with the deadly reputation was out there, somewhere in the darkness, closing in on him. The Gran Sasso raid wasn't the only stunning military operation of Scorzini's remarkable war. He also led Operation Long Jump, the Nazis' ultimately aborted triple whammy assassination attempt to bump off Stalin, Churchill, and Roosevelt during the 1943 Tehran Conference. And he successfully coerced the regent of Hungary to resign by driving into Budapest and kidnapping his son as part of Operation Panzerfaust. The regent resignation halted Axis power Hungary's negotiations to surrender to the Soviets, which would have instantly cut off some 1 million Axis soldiers behind enemy lines. Plenty of other covert operations came and went during the course of the war, some successful, some not. But by 1944, the wheels had well and truly fallen off the stuttering German war machine. Scorzini's final significant action during the war was in the Ardennes offensive, better known today as the Battle of the Bulge, during which he led a small unit of bilingual German commandos wearing stolen American uniforms into enemy territory. Their mission was simple: to cause utter chaos behind enemy lines by giving out false orders and disrupting communications. It worked too, as rumours began to spread that a rogue enemy force was somewhere in the vicinity, disguised in friendly uniforms. The Allies grew increasingly nervous of any units that they didn't recognise, leading to multiple friendly fire incidents and at least 2 fatalities. Less than 5 months later, on the 30th of April, Hitler took his own life, and 10 days after that, Scorzini handed himself in to the American troops. With most of the videos I've made on significant figures from world wars, the end of the war pretty much marks the end of the video.
Hey, do you guys know what Satan means? Satan means adversary. That means he's your enemy. Why would people worship their enemy? The goodness of God leadeth thee to repentance. I came out here because they're having this Satan con here and they're celebrating evil, human sacrifice, war, murder, lies. The powers that be, the United Nations, is at war against the American people and against the children. A lot of people don't understand it, but Hitler actually won the war. In 1963, they had banned the Bible in public schools. In 1966, the Church of Satan was founded in San Francisco. The Roman Empire never died. The Pope is the one saying that the vaccine is a mandate, and that's why the United Nations is the product of...
You're showing the rest of the people that's coming around here what you are.
Then you're gonna end up in hell. You sell your soul. You sold your
just tell
soul
me
for
you
a
don't
Happy
get
Meal.
pussy. Oh, what? Your wife doesn't want to give you pussy? Oh, wait, you're gay?
Look, lady,
Oh, God doesn't like that.
what you're talking about
Because
is a physical thing. We're talking about something that goes a lot deeper. You don't really love anyone except yourself.
you want to give me a hug?
I don't want to give you a hug.
You're acting like a prostitute. You're dancing on the street like a whore. I'm a repentant whore.
You used to have a lot of sex?
I've done everything she's done and worse.
Have you done anal?
No, that's evil. That's disgusting.
All right, so these shoes are Demanias. I bought them yesterday, actually, and this is my boyfriend's ring that he gave me.
Can you tell us about your outfit?
No, I'm not.
Okay, Vans, size 9.5 Vans high tops. Black flex fit cargo pants, Walmart flannel, Stetson hat from Bass Pro Shops. What does Satan mean to you?
He means a lot. You know, I went to like 7 Catholic schools growing up, and all I've had were bad experiences. I was raped, I was abused, I was treated like shit. Where was my saving? I was 8. I'm a child. How? That's weird.
You're not a child.
Hey, dude.
You're only a child mentally.
Hey, dude, is that girl old enough for you?
She can have a baby.
So you're gonna look at a 12-year-old girl on her period and be like, that's a grown-ass woman.
In
That's
Hebrew,
weird.
a girl gets married when she can get married when she's 13.
Are you Hebrew?
Jesus is.
Turn around, you ignorant piece of shit.
Just like when a man is old enough to ejaculate, he's a man. Physically, maybe not emotionally, maybe not spiritually, they're not ready for marriage, but that's because our society...
What is the difference between a Catholic priest and a zit?
Tell us.
The zit at least waits till you're 12 to come on your face.
That's very cute, and it's true.
Can you tell us your thoughts about that guy?
The thing is I don't think these are necessarily bad people. They're just misinformed.
If you love evil, God will give you evil. If you love good, God will give you good.
Hey, I was sitting on the edge of my bed praying every night that an angel came and took me away from my dad who was raping and abusing me. But did he save me? No. You want to know who did? You want to know who did? The Satanist Temple, because they donated, they helped me, they got me and my mom out of an abusive situation. What did the church do? Nothing. They told me I was wrong for having sex with my dad.
They rape children. That's a part of that religion. That's why I told you.
So the Satanist Church really helped me and my mom out of an abusive situation by raising funds to get us a nice, stable apartment in a nice area. And it was away from my dad, and it was away from all of my abusive family members.
And that's the difference between them and us, is that we approach it from I don't care who you are or what you believe, you're a person, I'm gonna take care of you. Like, you want an abortion, that's your right. It's not my body, I don't care. You wanna change your sex, you wanna love who you love, that's the difference. You know, if I needed an abortion, if she needs an abortion, they're fighting to take that away from every woman.
Breaking news out of Washington, an unprecedented leak from the Supreme Court.
The Supreme Court could be poised to strike down Roe v. Wade.
What it means is that states can criminalize abortion at all points during pregnancy without any exceptions for cases of rape, incest, human trafficking.
Justices Clarence Thomas, Brett Kavanaugh voted to support the Alito opinion.
Are you with the people across the street?
No. I run a pro-life organization, ironically. I'm just here to talk to them about the abortion issue. You have people flipping us off, screaming at us, and I'm like, hey dude, I'm just trying to get an interview, you know?
Christians will literally stand outside of abortion clinics or other churches or these kinds of events and turn it into a spectacle for their cause. They're not here to listen. They're here to put in the hours for their church and point and be like, this is this is
service for them.
Yeah, exactly.
What kind of music do you guys like?
I'm a big Rob Zombie fan.
Hail Satan.
Hail Satan. R.I.P. Fredo.
Hail Satan.
What do you mean by that?
I don't know.
Do you worship Satan?
No. We just view Satan as a literary figure to look up to.
We know for absolutely certain that Adam and Eve are just a parable. God is the Lord of lies. God himself is a lie. What's the worst thing that Satan ever did? He tried to reason with Jesus. Hail Satan! Thank you very, very much.
This is just nonsense. That this hotel, the city of Scottsdale, would even permit something like this. It's just evil, and they're pulling this crap.
They're trying to get it into our schools. I don't know if you're aware of in Illinois, a district out there, they have a Satan club for children. I mean, this is disgusting.
Well, in case you're wondering if it's really a spiritual war we're watching, here's this news story. The Illinois Elementary School is offering an after-school Satan club. It's sponsored by the Satanic Temple of the United States.
I'm June Everett, the after-school Satan Club campaign director for the Satanic Temple. Okay, I'll start from the beginning. Good News Club became a thing back in 2001 when they had a Supreme Court hearing in Milford County School District in New York.
What is Good News Club? Good News Club is an exciting opportunity for elementary-age kids to participate in an engaging and uplifting after-school program and hear life-changing lessons from God's true word, the Bible.
The Good News Club is in 6,500 public schools across the nation, prides itself on getting other children to indoctrinate their peers by, using threats of eternal damnation in hell. And so what After School Satan Club is doing is offering a safe alternative to those clubs. We don't actually teach Satanism. We don't try to prophesize to the children. We don't have stuff like that in the club. Like, it's mostly Uno and crafts and shit.
Why do you think the city of Scottsdale allowed this to happen?
Because George Soros' money paid him off.
George Soros had contributed $300,000 for this event to occur.
He contributed a bunch of money.
Where did you hear that from?
From other people that have done the research.
COVID was the gates to opening all this up. 6 feet apart, wear slave muzzles. That's very satanical.
They're not really looking at the huge, big picture, like eternal, you're going to go to hell.
My name is Rene Grigori, and I am the spokesperson for Southern California Congregation of the Satanic Temple. Our mission is to spread benevolence and empathy. We look at Satan as a symbol for our values: compassion, justice, respecting the freedom and autonomy of others, a reliance on science as a guide. If children are in the schools and they're being abused, we'll have attorneys to protect those children from that. We have reproductive rights, where we support the rights of women and people who can have babies.
Do you believe in the afterlife?
There's no scientific evidence that supports an afterlife.
What if I died in a park and then my body decomposed into dirt and then a tree grew out of the dirt? So technically, like, the cells within the tree are like stemming from my kind of...
There is no evidence scientifically for any of that.
I don't hate my parents or anything for raising us Christian. It just kind of is the way that it is. My mother is begrudgingly supportive. This is our homemade soap business. We do satanic and heavy metal themed soap. They all have a drop of virgin blood in them. No, I'm just joking.
Cash App, the best way to pay for satanic bath soap if you don't have cold hard cash to pay for satanic bath soap. But you gotta understand, Cash App is more than just a peer-to-peer money sending service. It's kind of like a bank. And it's a great way to invest in stocks and cryptocurrency. And guess what? You can use code CHANNEL5 for a free $15 for new users.
The Satanic Temple is hosting a SatanCon in Scottsdale, and it is expected to set a record of being one of the largest Satanist gatherings.
And hundreds of Christians swarmed outside the Saguaro Hotel, because right behind them is the first ever Satanist convention.
The event is sold out, as well as the Satanic Temple's Impurity Ball tonight at Pub Rock Live.
And blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. Now and at the hour of our death. Amen. In the ocean, wide with foam.
The guy says to the he says to his friend, says to the doctor,
They're just going to use the things that they
It's okay.
want to use.
It's
They're
all
not
right.
going to use the good things. They're going to use the bad things.
Okay, but actually, the world doesn't know about the good things.
They're going to cut off the good things and they're going to put the bad things.
They picked the past.
Prayer is more powerful than talking to somebody that's going to cut.
Do you think a Catholic needs to know that?
Well, I'm just letting you know you don't have to.
You're not doing it. You're overdoing
No,
it.
you could do whatever you want. Yeah.
Doesn't sound like it. Our church at the moment is the one true church, but it's corrupt right now. It's been taken over by homosexuals. And we're protesting that as well. Satanist conference at this hotel. Pray, pray, pray.
If you trust the blood of Jesus, you will be saved. It doesn't matter if you're gay, if you lied before, it doesn't matter. God loves you.
Where we at? Bush, Scottsdale, Arizona! Scottsdale, baby! This fucker's getting married! Getting fucked up, baby! I love it, baby! Who are you getting married to, baby? Anthem, baby! Yes, 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 yes! Let's fucking go! Scottsdale! We're getting that guy married! Oh, yeah! I don't know what we're yelling about! Something! You want some alcohol now? Yeah! Let's go!
My name is Democritus, and that's enough. Go ahead.
My name is Trey, and I'm 24.
You guys seem to have some kind of disagreement. Is that true?
Okay, I have a tendency, I apologize, I have a tendency to be loquacious. Loquacious means talking at length, but succinctly, basically, hypothetically, there's no demons or angels or gods or devils, okay? It's just humans with overactive imaginations, but sometimes we get stories that are profound and beautiful and enlightening, like Satan. Go ahead.
Channel 5 epic debate number 1. Democritus versus Trey.
You're a Christian.
Catholic, yep.
And you're a Satanist.
I'm actually transcendent of every ism. But, Satanism, I dig Satan. I mean, he's a profound character from mythology. He's so cool. He defies infinite authority. Isn't that groovy? We need more of that kind of rebel balls. We need more Satan's balls in the world kicking ass, okay?
How'd you get the name Democritus?
I was in an anarchist bookstore.
That's what's up.
And there was a random stranger, and we got into a conversation. And then I was thinking, you know what? This is America where everybody has the same name, and everybody dresses the same, and everybody looks the same, and everything's the same, and it's fucking boring, okay? Random stranger, got in a conversation. He dared me to change my name, so I did. There it is.
Do you dig Satan?
No, I don't.
Why not?
Well, he was telling me, my buddy over here, he was telling me he was inspired by him because he rebelled against authority. And I told him to stick with the hypothetical. Satan's in hell for all of eternity, burning. So that's where I was kind of thinking to myself, that's a stupid ideology.
Well, everybody's entitled to their opinion.
Church.
Do I like church?
No, it's an expression. It means like what you're saying has been validated.
I'm not familiar with you hip hop kids, I'm the...
What made you choose the blue bandana?
I just happened to grab it. I think, the mask is kind of a smart thing with the pandemic and all that,
I'm gonna bounce out of here.
Anything else you want to say to Democritus?
Wait, no, I'm good.
Yes, I have sexual fetishes. It's something that's inherent in basically anybody. Basically, Freud was onto something when he said, hey, when you suppress yourself...
How do I feel about the rappers that look like me? Oh man, those guys are a bunch of clowns, dude. That's why I tattooed my eyes, so I can kind of stand away from that, they're kind of gray. Yeah.
Is there any body mod you wouldn't do?
Probably remove a finger or some shit.
You know somebody who's done that on purpose?
Yeah, I know 2 or 3 people.
Why did they remove the finger? They just were tired of it?
Yeah, well, one of the guys doesn't ever want to get married, so he removed this one.
Can't you just not get married?
Yeah, I know, it's just Brazilian dudes are weird, you know what I mean?
To you, what is the cause of Satanism?
Man, just we're our own masters.
Are those permanent fangs?
Yeah, permanent fangs, implants and shit. I got the moon. I used to have the pentagram here. I got the little mini horns. This is my chip right here. Pretty much like a PayPal kind of thing. I could pay stuff with that. It even glows in the dark and everything. These do as well. If you ever want some, hit me up, man. El Paso, Texas.
Are you guys Satanists?
Not yet, but we'll see what happens by the end of the day.
Oh, of course. I'm interested. A lot of people join to some level to be kind of contrarian, but there is tangible benefit to being anti-establishment when that establishment is, homophobic.
They will tell you, do not have sex with men.
Do you guys have any favorite songs or dances or talents?
I like 100 gex.
I like 100 gex too, all sped up.
I'm a huge gecker as well. I learned it from him.
What do you think the gex would say if they were at this event?
I think they'd be all for it. Decked out in Satanist merch.
I think they'd appreciate the same things he did, like about how just accepting the community is, because I know that's what like they try to make with their own community.
I kept hearing this name Kardashian for years. I'm like, well, who is she and why is she famous?
Have you figured it out now?
Eventually, I figured out, okay, so she's some girl with a butt. All right, big damn deal. Who's not dating Pete Davidson? If you think about heaven, you don't really want that. I'd rather just die snorting cocaine off a male prostitute's ass.
They're going to go out into the desert tonight to an undisclosed location, and they're going to have a impurity ball. It's a festival of orgy, and it's a festival of animal sacrifice. They usually sacrifice goats or dogs during Lupercalia. No orgies. No Satan. No orgies. All Jesus.
Okay, here we are. Right over there is where the impurity ball is being held. We're going to go ahead and preach a little bit here. I pray for these souls.
Channel 5, Epic Debate. Number 2, Aaron Ra versus a group of Scottsdale-based Christian live streamers outside the impurity ball.
I am not going to be like you and lie to pretend that I know things I don't. If there evidently is no God nor a possibility of God, and all we have is evidence against God, then the only possible deduction we can make is there is no God.
Logic is evidence of God.
There is no logic that is evidence of God. There is no evidence of God.
You just acknowledge that logic exists outside of time and space.
Your belief system is based on a logical fallacy.
No, it's not. I'm saying
the question being, you just described it.
Listen, you're operating on a presupposition that there is no God.
I don't do
Yes, you are.
Don't talk to me about presupposition.
Presuppositionalism
is the stupidest of all arguments.
But you are.
No, we don't.
Of course you do.
No, we don't. You're presupposing. Will you shut the fuck up and let me say a sentence?
You've been talking the whole time, though.
You're all talking to me.
Go for it.
I'm gone. I can't.
No.
You'll be back, Aaron.
Where does logic come from? You don't know. You don't know. He can talk in circles, but when you challenge him on that one point, what happens? He gets frustrated and walks off. What you see there is a man that hates God.
And didn't really adhere to the Christian ethics. My brother passed away of a drug overdose last.
I've always said that I'll only get a tattoo if it's the Olympic rings on my bicep. Now, I'm at the age of 24 and it doesn't look like I'm going to be in the Olympics, unless it's for something like fencing or archery, which isn't that sexy. But maybe I should change my mind. I'm here at a tattoo. Convention. I'm Max Fosh, and welcome to Unconventional. Good evening.
And welcome to the Cardiff Tattoo Convention.
It's a very warm welcome. Heading to Cardiff for their annual tattoo convention was something that I'd been looking forward to for months. Sorry about the change of scenery. I'm on holiday in nature. I decided that I was going to start from the beginning, from scratch, and learn about this ancient tradition from the tattooists themselves.
Nikki.
Hello, Nikki. How are you doing? So you are a tattooist, tattoo artist.
Yeah.
What's the best way to describe what you do? Is it tattoo artist?
Yeah, I like tattoo artists.
How long have you been doing it?
I've been tattooing maybe just over a year and a half.
There's a lot of small talk in this job, I imagine.
Yeah.
Where's the most intimate place you've tattooed someone?
People always ask the same questions. They always say, what's the craziest tattoo you've ever done? Oh, I've tattooed my boss's bum.
Welcome to the company.
Yeah. Sometimes I like say the same things over and over, so I try and like ask them questions to try and like change it up.
Where do they get the cling film from? I'll make sure I ask a question that you've probably never been asked before. What's your favourite tree?
I've tattooed someone's armpit. That is a good question. I like a palm tree. Oh yeah, I've done palm of a hand. He sat like a champ for that. I don't know how he did it.
There it is. There's a palm tree. 2 palm trees.
Cringy, innit? We had to like gorilla tape his fingers down and everything, like just so he didn't. Because as soon as you do that, like your hand's like gonna close, and you just don't want that in the middle of a tattoo, do you? So.
I then got my new best friend Nikki to give me a step-by-step guide of the whole tattooing process.
It's all powered by magnets, so you connect this here.
Oh, I see.
So that gives it the power. It's all magnetism, so like as this comes down, the connection there breaks, so it springs back. So it's magnets, and what makes the noise is just the smacking of that bar up and down. Yeah, there's a little foot pedal.
So by pressing that...
Yeah, go for it.
Taking it off.
Yeah.
That was easy. So you're a year and a half, mate. 30 seconds. You can then like change the speed at which it gets.
It's a voltage, so.
And why would you change that speed?
When people are shading in black and grey, they go a bit faster. Dot work, you want the dots to come out slower. So obviously you're not then all tattooing the same way. You can do it how you want it.
So it's different styles, basically. Not all tattooists are like Nikki, and some of them, like Liz, are embracing the old school method of tattooing, which is also known as hand poking. So you do hand poke tattoos.
Yes, indeed.
What is the difference between a hand poke tattoo and a normal tattoo?
So hand pokes is with no machine. So I literally just strap normal tattoo needles either to a chopstick or like a tongue depressor, which is just like the wooden spatulas, and then wrap it up, and then I just push it into the skin. It's more like the traditional tattoo methods where they do hand tapping. That's where you'd have a piece of bamboo with, let's say, a shark's tooth in the end, or an orange fawn. So those are like the traditional methods.
That's how tattooing began?
Yeah, basically, yeah. So that's more tribal tattooing.
Do you hand poke yourself?
Hand pokes on my thighs, and I'm hand poking my shin at the moment. I think
What's your...
So I'm doing that at the moment. I think tattooing yourself when you're a tattooer is really, really important. Yeah, it's kind of respectful, I think, that if you expect people to have your work, you should tattoo yourself.
Well, you're taking walk-ups.
What one?
What, a walk-up?
No, a tattoo.
Do you know what? Whoa, 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 hold your horses there. Now, before I decided to get a tattoo and have it on me for the rest of the time, I decided to go around the convention and do a little bit of window shopping to see what others had got done. Are we all right?
I'm very well, thank you.
Justin taking care of you?
Yeah, he's tickling me.
This little piggy went to the tattoo convention. What are you getting done?
It's like a traditional demon.
The astronauts are my brother and sister, and then I've got my star constellation because I'm Cancerian.
I'm the host, MC and compere, if you want to call it that. I basically make all the announcements.
Are you not worried that when they're tattooing you that they're going to sneeze? I guess they stop and then
people can spot you a mile off and go, there's the guy we need to speak to for direction.
All the announcements.
Info, yeah.
Just the praying mantis wearing red shoes and a tailcoat.
Yeah, pretty much.
Normal stuff.
I look after a little boy with special needs, and he means an awful lot to me, so I've got his Pisces star constellation on my arm as well.
Just an Indian guy.
Indian bloke?
Yeah, just Indian bloke. Thought he looked cool.
Because we did 4 hours, and then we stopped for lunch.
What did you have for lunch?
I had a brie and cranberry panini.
Bougie.
It was like 7 hours, and then I had another...
Brie and cranberry, another 7 hours.
And then I had another 7 hours.
I do have a number of costume changes later on.
So this is not the only outfit that Terry's going to be rocking today?
This is not the only outfit, no.
Spaceman on the ankle.
Bloody, it looks like a well-done steak. Yeah. MCXI, don't tell me. M is 1,000.
Yeah.
C is 500.
Nope.
100.
Yeah.
You're selling body jewellery.
Yep.
You've got some body jewellery on you. Yep. I'm most interested, I really want to have a chat to you about your earrings, your lobes. What is that type of earring called? So 11:11.
I see 11s everywhere.
Do you?
Yeah, I see them on number plates, buses, the time, like literally every day I'll see 11:11 on the clock.
So you decide to put it on yourself for the rest of time.
Pretty much.
I don't know why I keep seeing 11 everywhere.
Correct terminology is plugs and eyelets. Yeah, you have gauges, stretchers, flesh tunnels.
What is it? It's a...
I was going for, like, you know, Dust Till Dawn, the film.
Yeah.
Like a tribal sort of thing, but a little bit different, yeah.
Yeah, this is one of my favourites actually.
I've just got a lack of hair.
It took me about 5.5 years to get to this size.
It's a pain thing, you know, I quite like the pain. It's a bit odd.
Does the ear have a limit in terms of the width it can go to?
We sold a pair that was 150 mil.
It's 15 centimetres. That's a small ruler.
As well, my wife, she's got some interest in ones around the speeder.
Can I have a chat with you about your tattoos? What's edging?
It's edging forward.
Edging forward. to see the second bit, I thought you were just really into... So that's the little I've been taken out. Can I have a look at the... Oh, lovely and warm. You're Mrs. Mark?
I'm Mrs. Mark.
And your name is? Gemma. Nice to meet you, Gemma.
That's me. That's technically my husband, Mark.
That's Mark.
Yeah, he's like a ginger bear.
So like I've always loved my butterfly on my neck. Like that's one of my favourite.
Butterfly on your neck. Okay, can you tell me the story behind the butterfly on the neck? Did it start off as a caterpillar? Back with Terry.
No, we're not. He was the guy in the fish suit and a silly hat.
Who's this?
I'm Captain Jack Sparrow, savvy?
No particular story. I love butterflies. I collect butterflies as well. And it's done by one of my good friends, Chloe Black.
We've got a Grim Reaper. He's toasting a marshmallow on a bonfire.
There's the marshmallow down there. Is this your little boy here?
It is. This is little Jack.
Hi, Jack. I'm chatting to Daddy about his flesh tunnels.
Almost done.
Really?
Yeah, lines anyway.
Do you like play games with him where you kind of like throw things through the ears?
We do. Try.
It's like Quidditch hoops. No. Jack, have you got any more announcements you've been making recently?
Yes. I made an announcement about something I needed to announce that didn't get announced that needed announcing.
Has he been a good patient?
He has been. He's one of the toughest guys I've accepted.
Really?
He feels no pain.
Any man has got hell written on his knuckles.
Hellbent.
Hellbent. On what? Hellbent on?
Just determined.
He's making an announcement. He's very good at it. It's very easy to go around and ask silly questions about tattoos, but I actually want to know the deeper reason why people get tattoos. Why do they decide to put something on their body for the rest of their life? How do tattoos make you feel?
The first thing I guess with tattoos, like the amount I have as well, is confidence.
I just wanted them. No reason, no meaning. I just thought they'd look cool.
I've always been alternative. I had a mohawk when I was 16 and I was starting getting tattoos, so it's always been a big confidence boost.
Do you feel like people judge you for having tattoos?
I don't feel it, but I don't particularly, I suppose I don't really care.
It's either good or bad. It's never in between.
It's never neutral.
No, it's either like, I do get really good comments most of the time, but then I do get bad comments as well. Like, it's crazy to see that people would still come up to you and say how disgusting it is, and I'm like, right, cool.
I would imagine that I am getting judged hard, but I think we all get judged anyway, don't you? You get judged if you haven't got any tattoos.
Even when I didn't have as many tattoos, I was always criticised for what I looked like, because I was always different.
As long as you're happy, that's the most important thing.
Exactly.
Now, I couldn't go to a tattoo and piercing convention in Cardiff and not get something done. So myself and camerawoman Coco both decided that Coco was going to get something done.
I can get that. Done. All right. Let's put the end on.
Isn't that nice?
Bye.
subscribing to things, I'm reacting, and you're getting the mukbang. The president. Well, that's new. Never seen that feature on YouTube before, where it actually has this sort of weird thing.
Part of this video was sponsored by LastPass. Stick around to the end for a word from our sponsor.
Are negative ions good for you? Normally, I'd dismiss such a question out of hand. In fact, that's exactly what I did when a friend brought it up about a month ago. But he was insistent. He said, no, this is for real. There's science behind it. And so I looked into it and I found this. There are literally hundreds of published peer-reviewed scientific studies on the biological effects of ions. It's a body of research that begins about a century ago and continues to the present day. And this is just a fraction of it. Now, these studies aren't just about any old ions, they're about atmospheric ions or air ions. And although the results are not uniform, they all begin with the premise that positive ions make us feel bad and negative ions make us feel good. So in this video, I want to get to the bottom of this.
These are Himalayan salt lamps.
With the heat from the light bulb, it releases negative ions into the air, and of course negative ions are what you breathe in and produces serotonin in the body. And serotonin is like the primary neurotransmitter in your whole body and all living things, and that's what makes you feel good.
Awesome.
Can I jump in here for a second? When I first heard all this business about atmospheric ions, my first thought was, why should we expect there to be many ions in the atmosphere at all? I mean, to recap, an ion is just an atom or a molecule that has gained or lost an electron. If it loses an electron, it's a positive ion. If it gains an electron, it becomes a negative ion. But here's the thing. Unlike charges attract. So moving about in the atmosphere, I'd expect the positive and negative ions to find each other, and then boom, they're back to being neutral. However, as it turns out, there are some processes that are constantly generating atmospheric ions. For example, cosmic rays. These are highly energetic particles from across the universe that slam into our atmosphere and transfer their energy to the air, creating ions in the process. Cosmic rays are thought to create around 500 ions per cubic centimeter at ground level. In fact, they're the most significant source of ions generated over the oceans. But here on land, there are other sources of ionization. Things like natural radioactivity. There are these long-lived isotopes of uranium and thorium and their decay products that can spit out highly energetic particles in the form of alpha, beta, and gamma rays. These ionize the air. They vary widely from place to place, but they can contribute hundreds up to many thousands of ions per cubic centimeter. If you were to recommend one of these to me that like has the most negative ions, or which one do you think?
I would just go for which one's hottest.
Yeah.
Because it's the heat from the light bulb that creates the heat, which makes the reaction in the salt.
Got it. Is that?
Wow, this one's great.
Yeah?
This would just be perfect. Here's...
And then you have thunderstorms. Each lightning strike generates copious amounts of ions. Perhaps one of the more surprising sources of negative ions is waterfalls. As water droplets collide with each other or with wetted surfaces with high velocity, the water molecules create this electrified spray with negative ions that can be transferred to the air around it. Depending on your distance from the waterfall, ion levels can reach tens of thousands of ions per cubic centimeter. And the same effect occurs with ocean waves crashing on shore. Hello.
Hi, Derek. How are you?
Good. Can I give you that?
Sure.
So what I want to know is how many negative ions are there coming off that lamp when it's on?
We have a technique involving mass spectrometry that measures negative ions coming off of solids, and so we can give it a try.
Are you an ion expert?
I've been studying ions for 55 years.
Whoa.
And I've written hundreds of papers on all aspects of ions.
So this is my salt lamp. It's meant to give us lots of negative ions. Can you tell me whether it's giving us some negative ions?
We're going to have a look, and the thing we're utilizing here is that the inlet to this mass spectrometer is at atmospheric pressure, and if there's ions there, we'll be able to detect them.
So this is like, is it kind of like an electronic nose or something? For ions.
You could think of it as a nose for ion. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, it sniffs the ions.
Okay. The lamp is next to the ion sampling cone. I mean, it's not on yet, but we'll see if there's any ions coming from it.
Yeah. So this display here, this is our mass to charge axis here, so how heavy they are in molecular weight essentially, and if there's ions being formed, we're going to see some signal on this screen.
Maybe like some peaks.
Some peaks, yeah. There we go. Now, does it need to warm up, or?
I think that's the idea.
Yeah.
Now, there are some places that do naturally have lower concentrations of ions, namely the interiors of houses and businesses, because these structures provide some shielding from the cosmic rays and from the natural radioactivity. Plus, if you have metal ducting and air conditioning, well, some of those charged ions will get stuck in the ducts. So typically levels inside homes and businesses can be as low as around 100 or 200 ions per cubic centimeter. Ion concentrations are also typically lower in polluted areas, in big cities or around factories. And that's because the ions actually cling to those pollutants or the aerosols, and so they don't live as long in the atmosphere. So the assertion that we live in environments with fewer ions than our ancestors is true. If you're thinking that you feel better around waterfalls and oceans and after thunderstorms than you do in polluted cities or around big factories, well, maybe that's the reason why scientists have been studying the effects of negative ions on human health for nearly a century. So let's consider the evidence. In one study, people suffering from seasonal affective disorder were randomly assigned to one of three treatment groups: bright light therapy, high concentrations of negative ions, or low concentrations of negative ions. They found that both bright light therapy and high-density negative ions independently produced antidepressant effects, but not low-density ions. In another study, participants in a high-density negative ion environment had significantly faster reaction times and reported being more energetic than those in an ambient air control. Now, if all this sounds too subjective, EEG experiments showed people exposed to high-density negative ions had a slower alpha wave frequency with higher amplitude. Participants also reported increased relaxation, alertness, and improved working capacity. And opposite results have been found with positive ions. In one study, volunteers were exposed to high concentrations of positive ions for 2 hours. Symptoms of anxiety and excitement significantly increased,
During the time of exposure, serum serotonin levels also increased significantly. This has even been taken into real-world work environments. An air ionizer was fitted to the air conditioning unit in an office building and periodically turned on and off over 12 weeks. When the ionizer was pumping out negative ions, workers reported 50% fewer headaches. They also reported increased alertness, perceived atmospheric freshness, and environmental and personal warmth.
It's feeling pretty hot. It's been on for an hour.
It feels much warmer, yes.
Yeah.
So the question is, can a salt lamp generate negative ions?
Let's check for negative ions.
Let's look again. Doesn't look like it.
But, I mean, there's not even like a background.
No, there's not. It's just like it's not even sitting there.
So your conclusion after testing this device is that it's producing no negative ions?
We're certainly not able to detect any negative ions.
The idea for how these salt lamps are meant to create negative ions is that water molecules are meant to land on the surface and liberate chloride ions from the lattice. But ask any chemist worth their salt, and they'll tell you the energy required to do this is way too high, so it just doesn't happen. What I find ironic is that there are crystals which, when heated, will produce ions. It's just that salt doesn't have the right crystal structure to make this work. The gemstone tourmaline does.
Those samples are worth many thousands of dollars. Tourmaline has a structure such that if you heat it and cause it to expand, it will actually develop an electric charge on the faces of the crystal. You have discharges between those faces, break down in air and forming ions, and that charge then can get transferred to any organic molecule that's present in the air. A 5-degree change was enough to generate ions.
I just find this extraordinary that there is a crystal, there is a material that you could heat up and create negative ions. So the reason people wouldn't have tourmaline lamps is because tourmaline's just really expensive. Okay, so we didn't get any ions off of the salt lamp, but I brought something along that I think might give us some ions. This is an ionic air purifier.
When this product was first launched, it sold 2 million units. It works by using high voltage to ionize the air and accelerate those ions to produce the light breeze you can feel, without any moving parts.
Okay, I feel a breeze coming out of it.
And that should be going into the nozzle?
Yep. We've got it pointed right at our ion inlet, so that's good. We seem to be seeing some ions at the moment, and we have the ionic breeze right up next to the source. So
these are negative ions?
These are negative ions.
So if you want negative ions, what you need in your house is not a salt lamp, it's an ionic air purifier.
Before you rush out to buy one, I should warn you that generating these ions produces an unfortunate byproduct: ozone.
So right now we're measuring about 17 parts per billion, actually, of ozone. So let's put this up to the front and see whether or not we see an increase in the amount of ozone there.
It's up over 80.
So now I think we're actually at the level of a smog alert.
So you're saying that this device is creating air that would be considered smog in a city?
I believe so.
That is kind of ridiculous for something that's meant to purify the air. Can you smell the ozone?
Yeah.
Whoa. Does it trouble you?
Oh, it doesn't bother me. I know it, and I want to either leave the lab or turn it off.
What am I smelling for here?
It should kind of the sweet smell.
Oh, yeah.
Does it smell a little sweet?
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people like that smell, but if you smell that, it's not good. So perhaps we should shut this off before we asphyxiate ourselves.
So, generating clean negative ions is challenging. But is it even worth the effort? The research is inconsistent. No significant difference. Evidence for beneficial effects of negative ions on mood and performance could not be demonstrated. Of the studies that report significant results, many have methodological problems. In some, participants weren't blinded to the treatment they were receiving. When they were blinded, they may still have known when negative ions were present by the faint smell of ozone.
Most of the studies have very small sample sizes. Plus, they surveyed participants on a number of measures, increasing the likelihood that at least one would show a significant difference, just due to random chance. Ion levels were typically measured at the source, and the distance to subjects was not tightly controlled, nor were the other components of the air. So there's no guarantee the participants were even receiving the expected levels of ions. A meta-analysis from 2013 reviewing all the prior human ion studies concluded there was, quote, no consistent influence of positive or negative air ionization on anxiety, mood, relaxation, sleep, and personal comfort measures. The only link they found was between negative air ionization and lower depression scores, though the authors caution future research is needed to evaluate the biological plausibility of this association. Because fundamentally, the idea that ions have any biological effect is implausible. Consider that in a cubic centimeter of air, there are 10 to the 19 air molecules. So even with tens of thousands of ions, the amount is insignificant, not even 1 part per billion. We're talking parts per million billion. And there's no reason to suspect the extra electrons would do anything anyway. I mean, in your daily life, you are constantly building up charge on your skin and discharging it through little zaps, say when you touch a doorknob.
What do a few more stray electrons extracellular do?
Yeah.
Probably not much.
So if ions do anything, it would likely be indirectly, say by removing pollutants and odors from the air. The ions would cling to the chemicals and then they would, say, get attracted to surfaces or something?
Surfaces and stick to the surface. The chemicals stay on the surface.
So I think ultimately, if you are looking for a way to improve your mental and physical health that is backed by strong scientific evidence, then you should take a walk outside. I mean, you can walk near a waterfall or near the ocean if you like, but the thing that is proven to boost your mood is the exercise. And as an added bonus, you're guaranteed to get some fresh air. Hey, this episode was sponsored by LastPass. You know, I remember the very first password I ever created. It was a PIN for an ATM card, and I was told I could select 4 numbers or spell out a word using the letters underneath. So I picked W-O-R-D. Word. Easy to remember? Sure. Secure? Not so much. And today, many of us still do this, pick passwords that are easy to remember rather than ones that are secure. So
Today we're talking about Gary V's Fish Club. You see, I'm not Today we're talking about Gary V's Fish Club. You see, I'm not the biggest fan of Gary V as a brand. As a person, he may be the coolest guy ever, but as Kurt Vonnegut once eloquently said, be careful of who you pretend to be, because you are who you pretend to be. If you can see through the smoke and mirrors and realize that whatever verbal diarrhea Gary V is spewing is a part of his brand,
genuinely sit there for 5 minutes and make pretend one of them got shot in the face,
then maybe you can get to the humanity deep down inside that is solely driven by money. By the end of this video, I hope to give you guys a better understanding of why Gary V's high-octane youth pastor capitalism rants actually are quite sinister. It was just a couple weeks ago when I explained to you guys how Gary V literally manipulated the NFT market by painting the tape. He rallied up a bunch of high-profile celebrities and influencers, told them to buy into a particular project for the sole reason of driving the price up. He has money invested into the NFT projects, therefore it's in his best interest to make as much money as possible and then dip. He doesn't care about artistic integrity or the future of NFTs. This is a short game and he's playing to win. The only problem is it seems as if there are no governing bodies or organizations such as the SEC holding these people accountable for the sketchy, shady shit that they're pulling. But I would venture to say that they are probably looking at this stuff under a microscope. If you're new to Gary V, it's quite easy to get lost in the sauce. You too may find yourself spewing NPC entrepreneurship dialogue to your friends and family. And when everyone stops liking you, maybe it's time to look in the mirror. The plight of Gary V is saying everything without actually saying anything at all. Gary V's entire brand, VaynerMedia, operates on the quantity over quality principle. Producing so much content, effectively gish galloping his audience, just overwhelming them with information but nothing of value. It may even start to appear as if this man has all the answers, when in reality, this man is just stealing money from his cultists with malleable brains. His fans are presumably young kids, but as I've seen, they're oftentimes adults, which is just as scary. These people think that working harder is the answer to
He probably talks about it later in the video, but alright guys, so if you want to watch any more, go over to my Twitch. I'll be live streaming the rest there.